Time to sit back, get comfortable, and fill your wine glass. You don't drink wine? Well, neither did I, until I came across Winc.com. After answering 6 simple questions, they did the work of selecting from hundreds of wines to find the 4 bottles that resonated with my taste buds. The best part, these custom order boxes of wine are delivered right to your doorstep at no extra cost. I know, right? You don't even have to put jeans on. For me, Winc is the absolute best, so I just couldn't wait to share it with you. Use the link provided in the description to get $22 off your first order. My gift to you. Seriously, let's all just stay home, drink wine, and enjoy this episode.
Hey yo, who gave this girl a mic?
Hello, and welcome to an all-new episode of Who Gave This Girl a Mic, hosted by yours truly, Melissa. Hope everyone had a good weekend and is having an even better week. We are continuing with our Women at Work series. This week, we have the talented, creatively Keila, owner of Hustling Mami Creative Studio. She is actually responsible for our new logo, our new branding. She worked with me, or I worked with her to create a new vision for the podcast, and she did everything, by far exceeded my expectations and, gave this podcast a very much needed makeover. It's been more vibrant. It's been more me. And she literally is such a talented artist and brought my vision to life. So I was really excited when she agreed to come on the podcast. It did happen to be her first podcast ever. That always gets me really excited because I love the fact that people are, open to trying new things. It's always a good feeling. So without further ado, please enjoy this new episode of Who Gave This Girl a Mic, featuring owner and creator of Hustling Mami Creative Studio. All right, and we are live. Thank you so much, Keila, for coming on the podcast and driving almost an hour to me. That means a lot, honestly.
Of course.
How was the drive for you?
It was beautiful, actually.
Really?
Like the sun was like rising and like seeing all the land. It was really nice. It was a really nice drive.
And actually, the sun was not facing facing you guys, so that actually makes a big difference.
It was behind us. Actually, I took a video of it. It looks really, really pretty. It was like, oh, this is like sunset vibes or sunrise vibes.
Yeah, nothing like an Arizona sunrise, man.
I know. It is different out here.
Yeah.
I will say. It's not East Coast sunsets.
Especially like hiking. It's a whole other...
We have yet to go hiking yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to, but I have yet to do it. Every time I decide to, I'm like, oh, let's go for a hike. It's summer. And I'm like, wait. No.
When I go, I like to go super early for the same reason, just to take up the sunrise and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really pretty. And you said this is the furthest you've been west, right? In the state?
Yeah, I've never been to this area, and we have been to California. We've driven there, so I'm assuming we would have had to.
Yeah.
Okay, so then yes, we have, but never visited anywhere around this area. But it's really nice. It's a lot of land. I'm always surprised of how much land Arizona has.
Mm-hmm.
So crazy.
It's just, there's a little bit of everything over here. The mountains, because you go up north, downtown north, and it's nothing but Camelback Mountain and all right there, and then Biltmore, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Gilbert has its charm too, and then you
could go to Flagstaff and there's snow and green.
And then you go to Sedona and it's red and it's rocks and it's just freaking I love it. Arizona's a hidden gem for sure.
I love it too. I don't see myself moving back to the East Coast at all.
And it's crazy. I lived here my whole life, and Arizona was just Arizona because that's all I knew, right? And back in 2016, I moved to North Carolina. Beautiful, very green, but that's when I started missing the beauty of Arizona.
Oh, really?
And I was like, damn, Arizona really is its own charm.
Yeah.
I love that over there I had all the 4 seasons and it was beautiful and stuff, but I missed the hiking trails. I missed there's so many different lakes here. There's so many rivers and, things like that.
Nature is really big here, I've noticed. Yeah.
And it's so bipolar, the different areas too.
And then air is just nicer.
Yeah.
It just feels
not as polluted.
Literally, that's exactly what it is. I live in the Bronx. Well, that's where I'm from, and we lived right next to the Cross Bronx Expressway, which is this huge highway, and it's one of the most polluted places.
Oh my God.
And they say if you have asthma, it's not the best place to live by. So being here now, it's contrast, such a difference.
And then very loud, I'm assuming, all day. Like, were you over there, like loud?
100%. Like, it's so funny because here I'll go on my balcony and there's like birds chirping and it feels like a fairy tale. Like, I'm like, this is not real.
Like, is this a YouTube video that's on or something?
I'm like, oh, those are real birds chirping.
That a sound machine that's on?
But it's like you hear just that. Like, it's so crazy. I'm so used to like cop cars, like fire trucks, like yelling, honking. It's so
yeah. So where I grew up, which is a little bit, it's still west, but it's like 30 minutes from here. Maryville, it's kind of one of like the more dangerous areas, you know? Yeah, I grew up in the hood. And I told Edgar, I'm like, it's so quiet over here when I first moved. I'm like, I don't hear, you know, helicopters. I don't hear gunshots. I don't hear, you know. He's like, what is it bad? He's like, what is it? Is it, are you not liking the safety you're at now? I was like, oh my God.
It's just different. I think it's just like an adjustment.
Too quiet. I'm like, it's a little too quiet. Yeah. You know, you hear cars, you hear the mailman, you hear the garbage truck, you hear kids playing. There's a, you know, a park across the street. And it is a little unsettling at first because it's like there's nothing going on here.
No, it took me a while to like be able to sleep properly because I'm so used to, but now I have a sound machine that I like bought because I realized I need like some sort of sound or something because it's too quiet. It's like creepy quiet sometimes. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah.
A little suspicious. Yeah. No, that is so funny. Well, thank you so much for coming. We are in Buckeye. For those of you you know, wondering, Buckeye, Arizona. It's you know, an old town, very, very farmish. You know, downtown Buckeye is like 10 minutes away if you guys ever want to check it out. Yeah. It's Western, old, historic little place, you know, and it's got its charm, but definitely lots of cowboys.
Oh, that's what you were saying earlier, cowboys.
Lots of cowboys.
The first time, it's funny because when me and my fiance flew here, like when we were moving here, we stopped in like, I believe it was maybe North Carolina. Like we stopped in like a certain airport for layover.
Yeah.
And I saw for the first time like cowboy hat, boots, belt buckle, and I was like, babe, look, there's a cowboy right there. I was like so like taken back.
They're not just in movies, babe.
And he was just there ordering his coffee, and I'm like, oh my God, first time ever.
That it was like you were like, I bet you were like, he's out in public, like dressed like that, and he's not at the ranch. He's not at the rodeo. Like, this
is really just how he dresses every day. I mean, he looked great. Like the cowboy boots were cowboying.
Yeah,
I was just like taking up like back. I'm like,
girl, it's a whole lifestyle. My husband will wear his boots, you know, randomly with just t-shirts and stuff. I love it. I'm Mexican. I grew up with cowboys everywhere, but it is definitely trippy when you're, you know, in the city and then you come and you just see people going to like, I don't know, like the store in full-on cowboy boots and a hat, and you're just like, okay.
I mean, as long as they're not like on a horse, imagine that. Like, like at Walmart, like
right,
their horse. That'd be hilarious. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, thank you again. Now, you know, I like to start each episode with a quote of the day. So I'll let you take it from here. Let me know who your quote is from, what it means to you, why you chose it. And if you have more than one, you're more than welcome to. It's your platform.
So I do have two, and they're both from me and my fiance.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he got it from someone else, but
I love that original.
My quote is, curiosity made the cat. And a lot of people use the quote, curiosity killed the cat.
I was going to say.
But I don't like that saying because I feel like for me in my life, being curious and trying different things actually exposed me to different opportunities and to learning different things. So I think curiosity makes the cat because I feel like try all the things, do all the things that you want to do, explore, why not? And then who knows if that's going to be the thing that ends up making your career, making your life happier, making, you know, you feel more like you. So I always use that quote, curiosity made the cat.
Like something's bound to stick.
Yeah.
Or you know, bound to like come from whatever you're exploring or
because I feel like a lot of people box themselves in and feel like, oh, well, I've been in corporate for this long, or I'm a teacher, so I should stay being a teacher. And it's like, no, if you're curious to like go make jewelry or go learn how to sing, do that and then see where that goes. I think curiosity is a good thing. I think asking questions, researching, wanting to read more on a topic, wanting to find out, I think that's all a superpower. So I think boxing yourself in and thinking that curiosity is a bad thing, like, oh, if I'm too curious or trying too many things, that's going to backfire on me, I think that's a bad thing.
And I think it's crazy because some people for the most part, society kind of looks down or criticizes kids that are too curious.
That was me.
And that starts from when you're small.
I'm a kid.
It's like, don't ask questions. It's how it's always been, like
100%. I ask a lot of questions, and I rather ask questions and be told like, oh my God, than in my mind be like, is that what it is? I'd rather just be sure, and I'll ask the question just to make sure. And a lot of people usually are like, oh my God, I'm glad you asked that, because I was thinking that too. But they just wouldn't ask it. So I've been like that since I was young in terms of asking questions. But I'm also a person that has always like pivoted. So if something's not working for me, I'll just do something else that I want to do, or I'll try it. And I've realized that's given me so many opportunities. And that's the reason why I am where I am now. It's because I was able to like switch and not leave myself in a box and not be like, oh, like if I was curious about something, I went and tried it. So that's one quote. And then my second one is the one that my fiance has told me, which I love. And it's, everything that you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear.
Oh my God.
And it's so true, because literally everything that you could think of you wanting to do, or anything that you have done in the past, you had to push past that fear to be there, or to do it, or to, be seen. And I think fear stops a lot of people from doing the things that they want to do, from living their dreams, from living their authentic best life. And I think that like when you're young, you are fearless. Like if you remember being a kid or a teenager, you thought that you could do it all. And that was when you really were just like a sponge. As you get older, life and the world becomes and does things to you that you start to be like, no, I'm not gonna do this, and you like move back. And
I've always wondered, when does that transition happen? What part in our life do we go from thinking I can do anything to I need to calm down?
I feel like it's like that first failure, that first heartbreak, that first like something for like you to really feel like, oh my God, you know what? I'm not going to keep doing this. Like, this is too hard.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, every single thing that we want to do, whether it's like being a mother, whether it's like starting a new business, whether it's asking for a raise, every single thing requires you to push past fear. Like literally. So I think if you can learn how to like know that like on the other side of fear, you'll still get what you want.
Yeah.
It's scary, and like that chunk is there. But once you're past it, you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy I did that.
Exactly.
And I think that that's like a great quote, but he's the one that told it to me.
No, I love it. And I think it's important for people to keep in mind that fear's there, but it's just an obstacle, not a barrier.
Yes.
People constantly use fear as a barrier, like I can't, like it's a wall, like that's what's keeping. No, that you just need to push past it, look for ways to overcome the fear. Or I had another she's a career coach. I had her on the podcast when I first started, Tania Mendez, shout out to her quote was, do it afraid. She's like, just do it afraid. She's like, because if you wait until you're not, you're never gonna do it. And it's literally like everyone, it's so funny to think, but or to kind of realize, but nobody has their shit together. Everyone's here trying to figure it out. 100%. You just do it afraid, see where it takes you, and if it doesn't, then you're back to where you started. You lost nothing,
Yeah.
In terms of like experience,
because you don't want to be at the end of your life like on your deathbed and be like, damn, I was too scared to try that.
I didn't live.
Yeah, like when you talk to anyone that's older, they always talk about all the things that they wish they could have done and they didn't get to do. And really, when you ask them what stopped them, it's a lot of excuses, but at the end of the day, when you go to the pinpoint, like the main reason, it's usually fear.
Yeah.
And fear comes up in a lot of different ways. Like fear comes up with procrastination. Fear comes up in, I'm going to start doing something else. Fear comes up in doubt. It comes up in so many different ways that sometimes you don't realize that what you're doing is stopping yourself because you're scared. But it's usually always connected to the fact that you're like, I don't know how people are going to get this. I don't know how I'm going to be seen. What if I fail? Like, but that's all connected to still being scared and like fearful.
And I think, and this might be a little like a touchy subject, but I feel like a lot of it has to do also with having more of a like stronger self-belief in yourself and being a little bit more confident and not caring about the hearsay and about looking bad. Because, one way or another, when you're doing something that's passionate for yourself and you're pushing past the fear, you're also pushing past the what the fuck people are going to say if it doesn't pan out. Because you think of both sides, right? If there's a good, there's going to be a bad. So if it doesn't pan out, you do run the risk of people saying like, oh, damn, wasn't she promoting this? And then, what happened to that? And she's closing down, or, it failed. And you have to be a certain type of breed to not care.
Yeah.
Or you can care even a little bit, but still be like, hey, at least I tried it,
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're the one living your life.
Mm-hmm.
So like living it for other people, I feel like is never a good thing, because there's going to be a certain point where you're like, wait, what am I doing for me? Because it's just never sustainable.
Yeah. It gets boring trying to play it safe, at least in my opinion. Some people are completely content just doing their 9 to 5 or just sticking in their bubble and going home and in their room, in the comfort of their own home, exploring who they are and, like that.
Yeah.
Other people feel the need to go out there and just showcase it and just, be very out there. I'm one of those people. I don't mind putting myself out there in a podcast.
Yeah.
And because I know there's a lot of people that have expressed, I want to do a podcast, but I don't know. I'll just, I'll just kind of keep it to myself. And I feel like I would have a lot to say, but, and I'll tell them, we'll start one, or come on mine. And then, you can test it out. No, I don't know. And it's just like, okay, I got to respect that too. Some people are okay with just,
But they're not, though. They're not. I feel like there are people, I feel like in every single person's life, like there's those things that you have to push past in terms of fear. And like you said, there might be people that are more like introverted, and maybe they don't want to like be on a podcast or put themselves on camera,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe they want to be a person behind the camera and they're scared to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain things still that you would have to push past. It might not necessarily be in the way that other people feel like, oh, it's not like I'm going to want to be a celebrity. That's not everyone's
or
thing.
Be, like you said, be behind the podcast, producing, or people that just want to draw, but they can't in their mind because that doesn't produce a steady income.
Yeah.
So,
there's always still something, even if you're not the person, like it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the person in front of or like show yourself out there. But there's like, I tell people all the time, like I was telling one of my friends, like, oh, you should start like a TikTok because she knows like all the cool places in Arizona to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh no, but I don't want to be on camera. And I'm like, you don't have to be. You can record the place and just do a voiceover.
Yeah.
Or you could just put music and put text. And she was like, oh, I never thought about that. I'm like, yeah, there's other ways to show up that doesn't have to be like your face on camera.
It's funny you mentioned that because I just came across an Instagram profile. This girl, I think it's called Faceless Influencer or something. She was an influencer for a long time, and I think she decided to show some people the like kind of switch the narrative, how you don't have to be in front of the camera to be an influencer, to get people out there and to reach a following. And within a week of her launching her Faceless like Instagram, she generated maybe over 100K followers. All of her posts, none of them show her face. It's a lot of silhouette. It's a lot of like just the window and then quotes, but it's like life lessons and stuff like that. And people are
like motivational, inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like in all her captions, it's always like, food for thought for people, or kind of good things. But at the very bottom, it's like, as you can see, this post does not include my face, and it's still generating a lot of views, and it's still generating and stuff.
So I tell people, I'm like, if you want it's out there and it's possible. It's just, again, still pushing past fear, because I'm sure that's still scary. Like that's, still showing up, even if you're not showing your face, is still scary, because you know that you're doing it and you want it to go well. But I think that, again, like the quote says, everything you want is on that other side.
Yeah.
And you're going to get like, you're going to feel more creative. You're going to feel more empowered. You're going to feel more happy that you're doing something. And I think it's not always about the results or the outcome. Like, of course, people think numbers, followers, views, but sometimes it's just about the fact that you're doing what you said you're going to do and fulfilling something that you've wanted to fulfill. And that should be enough to like do the thing.
Yeah. Just the satisfaction that I did the damn thing. Like, holy fuck, I actually did that, you know?
Yeah. And if you fail, then that's a great story when you're older. Like, oh my God, imagine that there's a time I started a podcast for a couple and
no way.
It bombed.
No way. You had a podcast? I did for a few years. No fucking way. It was fun. Like just the experience of it, to be able to say nobody can take that from you. 100%. My husband always laughs because a lot of the things that I've done in my life have been like things I shouldn't have done. Really, really bad. And he's like, what were you thinking? I'm like, I'm just like, I'm like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, well, then instead, and I'm glad I can say that instead of like, I wonder what would have happened if I would have, you know? And he's like, you really like will just go for it and then just be like, oh well, like it didn't work out.
You're like, I gotta live life.
That was not the best idea, baby. And then I always say, that's my little catchphrase. I'm like, I am not putting this on my resume. I was like, this is not going on my resume.
You're like, this is something I did, not something that everyone else needs to know I did.
Keeping this in my back pocket. No one needs to know about it. Well, I think these quotes are amazing. It's really, really, I think it's a true testament of who you are in your character, and then you know, literally like how far you've gone or what you're doing now because of, your strong belief in these quotes. You know, curiosity made the cat. That one immediately I was like, wait a minute, hold up. That's not how you got. But it's true though, like you said.
Yeah.
Can you think of a point in your life where you just completely went rogue and just followed your instincts, and it was just that went like was a pivotal point where you thought, I'm not like the others, or I'm literally never gonna go towards the masses or anything like that?
I don't know. I genuinely feel like my entire life I've always wanted and followed like the beat of my own drum. Like growing up, I really wanted to be an actress, and I went to a performing arts high school, so I had to like audition to get into my high school for drama. And you know, I grew up in the Bronx, and I went to high school in Manhattan, and it's normal for like you to go to your zone school. So most of the people that I grew up with went to like a school that was 2 blocks away from them in the Bronx, right? And I was like, I didn't want to do that. I wanted new experiences. I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to be somewhere different. So I, again, auditioned to that school. I got in. I would travel all the way to Manhattan by myself, like, with my friend, but like all the way downtown to go to high school.
14, 15?
Yeah, I was 14, taking the train like an hour, like not an hour. I think it was like 30, 35 minutes to like go from the Bronx. No, it was actually an hour now that I think about it. Like taking the train all the way to 68th Street, Hunter College. I went to Talent Unlimited. That was the name of my school. I was a drama major. And I did that for 4 years, and I was doing two plays every year for 4 years. And like we didn't have gym. We had like yoga. We didn't have like 3 or 4 periods of my school day was acting classes and voice and speech and movement.
Oh my God.
So I was like, this is what I'm doing. That's how I've been. And if you watch like home videos of me when I was younger, I love the camera. I love attention. So that just made sense to me. And so then afterwards, when I graduated high school, I was like, oh, actually, I don't want to be an actress. I don't feel
just like that.
Yeah, I did it for 4 years, and I realized there's going to be a lot of rejection in this space. And I realized if this is something that I'm going to do, I should 100% feel passionate, and I should want to do this, and I should be excited. And I didn't feel that. So I decided, you know what? I don't want to do this. And after that, I really was like that girl in my friend group that always like quit my job. Like I would be like an office manager. I'm like, oh, I'll do this. I'll try that. Like, and then if I didn't like it or I wasn't happy, I would just like quit. And then I kind of just like led into, now I'm a graphic designer, but that was by accident. It was again by me being like curious. My friend asked me for a Snapchat filter for her birthday. At that time, Snapchat filters were huge and everyone had one, and it was like a custom. So I learned online, I like Googled and YouTubed how to like create a Snapchat filter. And I did that just for her. And then after that, like someone else was like, hey, can you make one for my birthday? Can you make one for my baby shower? Can you do one for my wedding or whatever? And slowly but surely, and at that time, I thought I was going to be the Snapchat filter girl. I was like, oh, I'm just going to make everyone's coolest Snapchat filter. Like, mind you, I was working like a 9-to-5 job at like, I think I was an office manager somewhere. And I was charging like $20 for each Snapchat filter. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And then eventually someone asked me for a logo. And the Capricorn in me, or just who I am, said yes before I even knew how to do that.
Oh my God.
So I was like, yeah, sure, I could do that. Mind you, I've never done that before.
Yeah.
So I learned how, like, okay, I have to learn now how to make a logo. How do I do this? How much do I charge for this? What, like... So I slowly snowballed into that. And then someone was like, oh, do you know how to make a website? And like it slowly, but like I think, and then again, I've also had moments in my life after that, like where a couple of years ago, I wanted to make ashtrays. And I like learned how to like use resin and make ashtrays. I've wanted to make shirts.
Do you smoke?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I did at the time.
And you wanted cute ashtrays.
Yeah, I was.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's where the need came from. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mary Jane though, not like cigarettes. But yeah, so I did it off of that, and then the need came from the fact that like I wanted cute ashtrays, and everything was so manly and like so ugly. So I ended up making heart-shaped glitter ashtrays, like a pink one, a green one, a black one.
That's so unique.
I wanted to make shirts. I ended up making like Latina shirts that like actually got really big, but I stopped doing it after a while. I wanted to be a makeup artist at one point, and I was going to makeup classes and like investing in like master classes by people. Like every time I am like interested in something, I try to go full in, and I either invest in like the classes, or I try to learn, or I try to put a product out there and I do it. So I feel like I've been like that like my entire life.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's one pinpoint place where I was like, oh, this is when I decided to go rogue and do this. I've been doing it since I was young, like honestly.
It's just been your blueprint. It's just been who you are just naturally, you know?
Yeah, my mom always like encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do to the best of my ability, but she's also, which is a good and a bad thing, she also never encouraged me to like stay in something if I don't want to. So my mom was definitely the type that like if I was at I did basketball for a bit when I was like in the 4th grade, and like I sprained my finger and I was over it, and my mom was like, it's okay, you can do something else, like you don't have to like do that. A part of me wishes that she did push me to continue and like to stick through things sometimes, because there are times where I feel like that would be a good skill to have had to like I know that there's some people where like their parents pushed them to stay in sports. That's a bit of like, you get that resilience of like, you know what, I'm gonna always push through, I'm gonna see through what I did.
Yeah.
And I love that, and that's the part that I feel like I missed out on. But the part that I gained from it, I think, is the fact that I won't stay anywhere where I'm not happy or I don't feel alive or creative. I'll end up like quitting, or like once I feel that I'm like, I don't really want to be here, I'm starting to look for something different, whether that's in a corporate job or in like something that I'm doing like in terms of a hobby. And then I just do it. I don't think too hard. I just pivot and go to the new thing, and I try it, and if it doesn't work, it didn't work. But yeah, I appreciate that in a sense, but at the same time, I'm like, I kind of sometimes wish I would finish some things and follow through all the way.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because my husband and I, we have these conversations now with our daughter, and he's very like, I want her to do like taekwondo, I want her to do this, I want her to do that, gymnastics, all that, which I'm all for it. I did extracurriculars my whole life. My parents always had us in piano, gymnastics, folklorico, dancing and stuff. Oh my God. Always just in a way to keep us out of trouble. You know, if we found something we liked, then we wanted to hurry up and finish our homework so we were able to do that.
Yeah.
And there were times where I would tell my mom, like, I don't want to do this. And she would be like, you made a commitment. You have to at least follow through. Once it's done, we won't do it again. And so I told Edgar, I'm like, obviously, because he said, but if she doesn't like it, she can quit. And I'm like, well, no, she's not going to quit just like that. Things cost money. Things cost time. And then if she gives her word for something, he's like, babe, we're not going to force her. I'm like, it's not forcing her. It's just letting her know, let's just follow through till it's done. Till the end. And say, you know what? I gave my word, or, my parents signed a contract or whatever. We're done. This isn't for me. I'm glad for the opportunity and for this, experience. And then I'm done.
I 100% agree. I think that when I have a child, I want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm not forcing you like forever. It's not like once you start baseball, you're going to be a baseball player for your life. Yeah. No, but you're going to do it till the season's
and
done.
if you gave your word for something, they're counting on you.
Yeah.
That's just,
Yeah, I will definitely want to push them to like finish it, to like see it through to the end of that like period.
Yeah.
But if afterwards, once it's done and you've committed all your obligations and you don't want to be in baseball, cool. Let's go. You could go to dance classes or something. Yeah. But I do agree where I feel like you should follow through on those commitments, but that builds good skills and character as you get older.
Yeah. And I think it definitely made me more compassionate, because my parents would be like, well, those people took time and day to give you a spot and someone else didn't get that chance.
That's true.
And you're here, and I'm like, okay, as opposed to other people who could be, which is fine, who could be just like, fuck them. Like, I'm thinking of me, I'm putting myself first, which is also such a good life skill to have too, because you're putting yourself first, and it's like, I'm not going to be somewhere I'm miserable, or,
Yeah.
So I can see both sides, but I definitely am leaning more towards, well, she's got to finish at least, learn that if she starts something that she really wanted and begged, and we made it work, and we're getting off early or going in the afternoons for something, and she just decides, I don't want to, I'll be like, no, little girl, like, you need to at least,
and then after that,
after that and stuff. And so it's so funny you mentioned that, because I'm going to to tell them too. I'll be like, Keila said that she wishes her mom would have been a little bit stricter on that commitment.
I do. At least to what we said. Like, at least let me finish or not. Yeah, again, it's going to sound crazy to say force, but it is kind of like you're pushing through. But at the end, you're going to feel good. Like, oh, wow, I'm glad that I did that. It's not something that I'm going to continue doing, but
that chapter's done.
Yeah, and it does build those skills as you get older, where you're like, no, I'm going to follow through on those commitments versus being like, and again, I didn't get that bad trait where I'm not like flaking on people. But at the same time, I do know like there's a lot of things that I start that I don't end up finishing that I wish I would finish because I don't have that like resilience of like, I'm just like, no, it's not for me anymore, and I'll stop. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that I wish that I'm like, oh no, I wish I saw it all the way through. And I think that would have helped from like childhood.
My OCD is like, I have to finish this. And Edgar will be like, but just give it up. It's fine. I was like, no, I already started. I can't just not finish. Like, you know, it's so funny. And it's crazy that you just so openly admit that a lot of people are, you know, would be kind of shy to say like, no, there's a couple of things I leave unfinished, and you know.
Oh yeah, no, I feel like there's no reason to like to be shy about things like that, because I do think that there's one, everyone's different. You gotta embrace your unique personality. Yeah, and my personality is I love a lot of different things, and I have like ADHD where I'm like, oh my God, I want to learn how to make pillows, and like I want to start sewing, and I know that I can't do it all, but I'll start a little bit of everything, and then I just don't end up finishing. But there are things that I have finished in my life, and there are things that I still continue to do. So it doesn't define my entire personality, but I'm not gonna sit here and say like every single thing I start. That's not true. That's not me. I can't like keep up a facade. Like I know some people that like want to look perfect or whatever, and I'm like, no, that's just not true. Because then what if you catch me and like I say later on like, oh, actually I didn't finish it. They're like, oh wait, you said you finished everything you started. I'm like, I'd rather just tell you from the straight.
Gotta
like,
be careful nowadays, right?
I'm like, yeah, no, that's not me. Like I'll start some things, but there's a lot of things I didn't get to finish, and it's because different things too. It's not always just because like I lose motivation. Sometimes it's because I realized halfway through, this isn't for me. Like, this is really just not going to work for me. So I'm like, why would I continue putting my time into something? Yeah. But yeah, if it's a commitment, usually, like if I paid for something, I'll follow through. But like if it's something I started on my own, where I'm like, I'm not really into this anymore. I don't really like it.
This was not what I expected. So you know what? Like,
and who knows? Sometimes, you know, I think people consider projects to be very like, a very concrete timeline, and it's not. There's some projects that I started like a couple of years ago that I'll start finishing now. Yeah. And that's finished too, you know? I think like it doesn't have to be like, oh, I started this today, so if in 6 months I didn't get it to a certain place, then that's it. I'm never going to finish. No, you might maybe pick it up in a year from now and then get more inspired and finish something. You know what I mean? So I think that it depends too, because I think people assume that like, oh, if you didn't get it done in this time frame, then that's it.
And timing is everything. Sometimes it's not the right time for what you're wanting to do, and it seems like it's just not for you. And then years later, you're like, oh, like now I'm ready, or now I have the tools, now I have the experience, now I have what I was needing back then.
And it shouldn't stop you to continue. Some people feel like, oh, well, I already tried and like it didn't work out. And it's like, no, it might be that this is the right time, and then this is the way you need to do it. Don't let that stop you and be like, oh, I can't now. You know what I mean? Or like, that's the same way of like, sometimes I see people that like, I don't know if this is the best analogy. I think it's always good to like go back to something if that's how you feel, because you're a human and you're evolving and changing. But like there's people that get divorced and then get married to the same person again. And a lot of people are like, what's the point? Why would you do that? And I'm like, it was necessary for them to go through that. And if they choose that person again, then that's on them. But that's the same thing of like, you shouldn't shame that person for that or make them feel any type of way. And imagine if they decided not to get back with that person just because we've already divorced. Then you're losing out on being happy. Like, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of times and situations where people stop something and then decide later on, like, I'm not going to continue just because they don't want to look like, oh, I already gave it up.
Again, the hearsay, you know?
Yeah, listening to what other people are going to think or feel about something, when it's like, no, it's fine that in a couple of years you decided to pick it up again. And who cares if people are like, oh, you're back doing this again. Yeah, and
I will say, there's a lot more people that don't care than those that do. And people,
100%.
And people just don't it's a hard pill to swallow or something. I feel like people think it's way more that do care and are going to talk shit than the ones that aren't. There's way more people that are just going to be like, oh, they did that? oh, okay, that's cool. They got back together again? Oh, shit. And that's it.
Yeah.
Then the ones that are actually going to be, you know.
I always think about it like, flip it if someone told you that someone did that. Like if someone told you like, oh yeah, she's going to start her podcast again, even though it's been 5 years since she did her podcast, what would you think? You would probably be like, oh wow, that's crazy.
Oh shit,
that's usually
cool.
what they're thinking.
And yeah, literally that's it. And it doesn't go further than that, you know? But it's also people just trying to convince themselves that there's more to that just to stop themselves from doing what they want to do, you know?
Yeah, no, that's so true. And again, fear.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fear talking.
Oh man, full circle moment right there. So as you know, I had you on here, or I invited you on here because I'm currently running the Women at Work series, right? I'm highlighting a bunch of entrepreneur women that have gone out of their own way and have started their own business one way or another. You kind of gave me a glimpse of how you started with your graphic design totally by accident, which is so funny because that is the whole point of why I'm, selecting all these different women. Some of them knew from the start they wanted to be, start a business. Some of them, it was by accident. Other people didn't realize that they were actually like running a business until they stopped and they're like, oh crap, like this is legit my income now, little things are so different. And like how you mentioned, you're a graphic designer now. You designed the new logo, the new marketing, the new branding for Who Gave This Girl a Mic, you guys. Yes. So we owe it to Keila. Beautiful. You brought my baby to life.
I'm so excited. It was so fun designing everything for the brand.
And I was just so attracted to you in the way, like pulled to you from the moment I saw you at Amor Amigas. You radiate. You're just so spunky. So just you literally stand out in a crowded room, which is we were in a crowded room.
There was a lot of people there, and
you just come in with your little. I think you had a Packers jersey on with your glasses, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, who is this little short girl just walking around, super confident, just radiating your kind of your character, who you are.
Thank you.
And so, right away you plugged that you're a graphic designer if anybody needs it. I'm like, maybe this is my sign. Maybe I should go, because it's important for people to hire people that are passionate about what they do. Yes, I was scoping out different graphic designers, obviously looking at pricing, looking at stuff. And people are like, yeah, I do graphic design. Just tell me what you want. And that's it. And immediately from our first call, you're like, I am going to hear what you think you want or what you're kind of heading to. But also I want to know X, Y, Z. Like you're asking me questions that I didn't even think mattered,
Yeah.
And so where did you go, or how did you decide I'm doing this full time? This is going to be the new brand, like my new company, that.
So yeah, again, like I said, I started like snowballing with like people asking me for more filters, then a logo, then a website, and slowly but surely I was out here. Like my side hustle was something that I was taking more and more of my time. And I was learning more and more skills. It's not like I didn't go to school for this. I didn't do any of that. I was just really learning on my free time.
And you were enjoying it.
Yeah, I was enjoying it, and I was learning on my free time. I was gaining more skills. I was gaining more experience. At the time, I was going to a shit ton of female empowerment events in New York. That's where a lot of my following came from. Mm-hmm. Was when I tell you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was at an event for some sort of all women Latina thing or just an all woman thing. I was out there all the time. And before I even considered myself a graphic designer, I would say I'm a designer. So I would go to these events, and this was before I even had a business card, before I even thought I was going to do this as a career. I just started saying it to people.
That's crazy.
And I would be like, yeah, like I'm a graphic designer. And they'll be like, oh yeah, can I see like your work? And I'm like, I have no work. I literally had nothing. I just was saying it because I wanted to believe it. So I just was like, you know what, I'm going to continue. Little did I know, it was like a boom of female businesses at that time. And every single person that I went to and I met at those events was starting a business. And every single person was like, oh my God, I actually do need a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And I have never met one in person. So yeah, can we work? And there's a lot of those women that I still work with till this day, and like became great friends and became like great clients. So networking and going to those events gave me the, I guess, confidence and the courage to keep saying that I'm a designer to people. Mm-hmm. And then it just happened that I had something they needed, and they had what I needed, which is them starting a business. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those people gave me a chance and let me like design their branding which they were all horrible. Like, now that I look back, like, I think it was bad. At the time, I thought I was like doing some hot shit. But like now looking back, I'm like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing, but they didn't know either. And we were kind of trusting each other, and we were kind of learning and growing together. And then over time, I was still working at a job, and I was just like, I really wanted to do this. Like, I didn't know anyone that was a graphic designer. I didn't know anyone in this industry. So I was just like learning a lot. Like, I was watching vlogs of people, day in my life as a graphic designer. I was watching and looking up like, what does the graphic designer for Nickelodeon look like? Let me go look up LinkedIn and like find them and see what did they do? Where did they go to school? I was considering going to school because I was like, oh, maybe I need a degree to do this like full time or whatever. Little did I know, I was already getting clients. Mind you, I wasn't getting paid I didn't even know what people would get paid, but I wasn't getting paid enough to like take over my job. But I was getting people to pay me, which usually that's the hardest part for someone. Is to like find someone that's willing to pay them and be a client.
Or build the clientele, and you had that already.
Yeah, so I did have that, but I thought that I wouldn't be a real graphic designer until I worked for a company. Like in my mind, because all I knew was corporate worlds and like being in like a 9-to-5 job. So I thought like, no, I need to be hired for this in a job. Most people,
like, I need to be on someone's payroll as a graphic designer.
Most people do the opposite. Most people work a corporate job as a designer and then go off and be freelance and do their own thing. I started with doing my own thing, and then eventually I kept trying to figure out like, how do I get to this place where I could get hired by someone? Like, what do I do? Eventually, and they're in quarantine, I got hired by Pop Sugar, and they're like a huge media company. And I was super scared because I was like, oh my God, I know I've been wanting this, but this is here now. Like, I can't believe this is actually happening. I'm sorry. And then when they hired me, I was on a team of like 5-6 women. All of them went to school. All of them went to like Parsons, School of Design, like all these great places. And I was terrified because I'm like, I'm YouTube University here, no degree. I went to college for a year and like dropped out. So I was just like, oh my God, like, what if I can't keep up? What if they're going to ask me to do something that I don't know how to do? What if I suck? Like, even though my fiance kept telling me, like, you got hired. That's way more than already what other people have done.
Yeah.
But I still was in my head.
Imposter syndrome, girl.
100% imposter syndrome. And then I started working and I realized, oh, I taught myself really well. I'm keeping up with everyone. A lot of them were like, oh my God, you did such a great job. You're doing amazing. Well, the only thing I realized was they knew more shortcuts than I did. Like, in terms of design, like there's certain things with Photoshop or something, like they knew how to get to the result quicker, but I still got there. It's just I took more steps. And being there, I learned and grew a lot because I realized, oh, I don't have to do it this way. I could do it that way. That's actually smarter. And they're like, yeah, this is what I learned in design school. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take that from you. But I did teach myself well enough that I kept up, and I still work there now. Like, well, I don't work there fully, but they contract me from time to time. So there's times where like right now I'm on a contract with them where I'm working a couple of months and I help them out, and then I'll, when they don't need me, I'll stop. So they're still a great client and somebody that I work with, but like that's the first time that I considered myself a designer. But when I look back, I was one when I said it the first time.
Yeah.
It didn't change, or if anything, I just kept growing and gaining more experience and sharpening my skills. But for me, it didn't feel validated until I started there. So once I worked at Pop Sugar and I realized that all the things I taught myself was right and that like I was on the right track, that's when I felt confident enough to like, maybe I can start, even though I was already doing it. It's weird, but in my mind, I felt like I couldn't consider myself a real business until that happened. So once that happened, after I worked there, I decided to start hustling Mami, which is my like creative studio. And again, before that, I was considered KG&Y Designs. That's like the name I had. But then I decided to rebrand. But I decided to start like charging more. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm at a place where I know I can do good things. I know I have a good eye. I know what I'm doing. Like I guess being at that by Pop Sugar gave me the confidence to believe in my skills more. I think before that, I felt like I wouldn't charge people a lot, or I wouldn't want to like, I would do the same thing with other designers, would just be like, yeah, tell me what you want and I'll design what you want. Like I'll do all of those things because I was trying to just keep people to work with me. I felt I was too scared. I was like, I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't want to like charge too much and then you don't want to work with me. I don't want to tell you I can't do that. And then, you know what I mean? Like I was scared. So I was getting all of my clients and keeping them out of like being desperate, I
They're
guess.
playing it safe too.
100% playing
just like
it safe.
you're hiring me, so I'm just gonna do what you're asking. Which I mean, a part of that agreement is true, but also it's like, hey, I'm also the professional here. I have the knowledge and I have the skill set.
I didn't feel like a professional.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was still learning, and I felt like an amateur. So I felt very much like, who am I to tell you what to do or how to do it or how much this costs or whatever? But after Pop Sugar, that's when I really felt more confident, and I felt more like, no, I am a designer. Like, they believed it. They hired me. I kept up with everyone that went to school there. Like, I did sharpen my skills. So after that, I was like, no, I'm gonna raise my prices.
You found your worth. You got out of your own way, and you're like,
and I was like, I'm gonna raise my prices, and I'm gonna also tell people, no, I don't want to do it like that, because that's not gonna be good, and I'm gonna tell you why, and I'm gonna also tell you like what I think would work and what would be better for you as a business. And I trusted myself more. I believed in myself more. I realized like, no, I know what I'm talking about. Like when I see a brand and I see, oh my God, I want to buy that on Target. The reason why is because this isn't that. And I can say that now to people, and I know why. And that gives way more. I've realized me explaining those things and me doing that actually get people to pay me more versus me doing it the opposite way, where I was like, yeah, no, whatever you say, sure. Because I realized people do want to trust an expert.
Yes.
They do want you to be the professional. They want you to tell them, no, this is not how it's done. This is the right way, and this is the way that will be beneficial to you, and this is the way that like will make you grow. And then when they hear that, you're like, and you give them the evidence. Like, when we had our call together, I showed you like other things that I did for my other clients of like, this is what you're getting from me. Like, you're going to be getting all of this. And I'm not just doing it because this is what you want. I'm doing it because this is what's going to make you successful, or what's going to make your clients care more.
Exactly. I mean, I was very attached to cursive for the podcast.
Yes.
And I was like, well, I'd like to stick to cursive. And you're like, you said it from the start. I steer away from handwriting because it's not that
legible.
Yeah, for anything. You're like, it can be very difficult for merch, for other stuff. It's a little bit more complicated. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I like cursive, so I was like, I thought that was, and you immediately was like, I'm gonna tell you right now, I steer away from those. Like, I don't. And
I told you I would try it. I was like, I always tell people, like, at the end of the day, you're paying me your money. I want you to be happy with what you're leaving with. So I will always give you that option if you're really pushing back. Like, yeah, sure, fine, I'll do something in cursive.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you the reasons why. And a lot of times there's been situations where I've told someone, like, with cursive even, like, no, I don't think cursive is a good idea. This is why. This is the reasons why I usually, don't do that. And I always connect it to a real world example. So I'll be like, think of Chanel, Nike. Think of any big brand you've ever liked that makes millions of dollars. Do they have script in their font? And then they usually are like, no. And I'm like, why do you think that is? And I'm like, it's usually for a reason.
Yeah.
And then I also tell people all the time, like, in order for you to, it's kind of like a quote I tell my clients all the time. I'm like, in order for you, even though you love cupcakes and you love cake or pizza, when you go fishing, you would never put a cupcake at the end of a fishing pole to grab fish. They don't like that. They want worms. So that's the same way that you have to think. The fish are your clients. And although you love pink and you love glitter, what if you're selling to men? Men don't like pink. You have to think about your clients. What are you going to put at the end of that fishing hook? So I always tell people, I'm like, yeah, I know this is your baby and I know this is your brand, but just because you like pink doesn't mean that your clients are going to like pink. Who are you trying to attract? If you're trying to attract, let's say, high level, successful people, sometimes they don't want glitter on the logo. That's going to detract them. They don't want a cursive font. They're going to be like, oh, that's not professional. So I always, when I work with someone, tell them, let's think about who we're trying to get in, what kind of money you're trying to make, what kind of people you're trying to bring in. And then that's what should inform decisions. Of course, you want to love it at the end of the day too, but just because you like a cupcake, fishes don't like cupcakes. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to pivot and understand that, like, well, I'm going to build this brand for the betterment of me and like what I want. And of course, I want to love how things look, but I still want to attract the right people. And that usually requires certain types of branding. Like Nike, they're attracting sports players. They're attracting people that are in fitness. All of their branding reflects that. You would never go to Nike and be like, oh yeah, this is for like, like little girls. No, that's not what you think when you think Nike. You think like basketball players, you think fitness, you think like just do it, you think like efficient, you know what I mean? And they did that for a purpose because they're trying to attract those
quick,
type of
concise,
people.
and sharp.
Like the type of people that you're trying to attract is what your branding should be. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. They think, this is my business, I'm the one starting it, so it should be everything that I like and I want. And it's not, especially if you want it to grow and you want it to be scalable and you want more money and you want to be in more places. Like, let's say you have a product and you want to be in Target and stuff. You have to think about more than just you, because the people that you're trying to get their money, those are the people you're thinking about. You know, like if you have a brand that's for teens, you wouldn't do a lot of like black, high power, like making it very sleek and very chic,
sophisticated.
Teens are gonna be like, I don't like that. That's not me. That doesn't connect with me. So I think you have to think that way when it comes to the brand, and a good designer will let you know that. Will be like, hey, of course we could do pink, but just so you know, if you're trying to attract more men, that might not be the best color. You know what I mean? And I think that that's important to like state, because I think that shows that you care about the brand and about the person, you know?
I think that's really it's good food for thought for any business owners out there right now that are kind of struggling to find their image, their brand right now. Is because I 100% was one of those people. I said, well, I like the curse of it, and I want it to represent me. And you have to shift that mindset to like, well, who are you? Who are you serving? Not serving.
No, but yeah.
You know, who are you trying to attract? And because at the end of the day, the brand has to attract the people that are going to be following you, or who are you marketing to?
Yeah, unless you're going to be your only consumer and your only customer, then yeah, do it just exactly how you want it. Because if you're the only one buying your stuff, then of course. But if it's not, then it takes more strategy and more thought than that when it comes to your branding. And branding is more than a logo. I think a lot of people feel like it's just a logo, but it's like, no, honestly, what a brand really is how people feel about you.
Yes.
Which sucks because you can't control that sometimes. You can try your best to like gear people and steer people to how you should be or how you want to be perceived. But basically, the way I tell people, a brand is like your personality. Like, that's just the personality of the brand. And again, that comes through your voice of like, as a brand, like, for example, again, Nike, just do it. Just concise, period, to the point, motivational, inspirational. It goes with all of the things they did. Imagine if Nike's like branding or like tagline was like, the place to make you happy. That doesn't match Nike, you know what I mean? So your voice, your practices, there's a lot of, this came out a lot through COVID and through 2020, where a lot of businesses and brands were known for one thing, and then you found out that their CEO wasn't actually like, imagine being a woman-owned brand, right? You're like, I preach women-owned, we support women, whatever, and then you find out that the CEO of that company is like horrible to their women employees. Yeah. That is part of your brand, because now people are like, oh my God, like, you're not even what you preach. Like, you're not even doing what you said you were going to do. We don't support you anymore. Like, don't. So that's part of your branding too. Like, you can't be someone that says, oh, I care about diversity and inclusion. And then you look at your board and everyone's white. Yeah. You don't.
Feels kind of like a betrayal in a way, you know?
Yeah. So that's part of branding as well. Is like your voice, your practices. Obviously, your logo and imagery is a part of it as well. The way that you comment back to people on Instagram, like, all of those things are part of a brand image. Like, when you and you there's different brands out there that you could think and you could feel their branding. Like, McDonald's is way different than like Shake Shack. Those are two, they sell the same thing. They're two totally different things. And nowadays, we're at a place where everything is good, quality-wise. There's most burgers you have, they're good burgers. Most bread you buy in the supermarket is good bread. The only difference is the branding. There's a whole aisle of bread, and the only difference between the two, obviously, there's one that's sourdough, one that has like this, but at the end of the day, you could get bread from either one of them. And the only difference that you pick Wonder Bread over this bread is the branding and the messaging. Like, this one is healthier, and we care about health, and we're green or whatever. That's why you buy that one versus this one that seems a bit more like, oh, we're more decadent, we're luxury, we're a higher price. All of that is branding. That's all bullshit. Like, they're all the same thing. They're all bread. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with even like Nike and Adidas. They sell the same thing, but there's some people that would never buy Adidas and some people that would never buy Nike. Like, they're like loyal, but it's because you fell in love with the branding.
All I can think right now as you're saying all of that, I'm like, it's so mind fucking.
Yeah,
like
it really is
such a powerful branding. Like if you have the correct brand, you can like
the biggest one that I'm gonna say is Apple.
Oh, girl.
And they've done it so well that there's beef between Android users and Apple users.
Yes.
They've done it so good that, like, literally, if someone asks you to get an Android and you're an Apple user, you're like, how dare you? Like, it's that, like, big. And that's all branding. They're the same phone. If anything, Androids are better.
Yeah.
But you're so loyal to Apple, and they've made sure to make their stuff sleek. They know that you like color, so they'll give you like, a pink iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
They know that, like, brand. You walk into an Apple store. Have you been to an Android store? No. Exactly. You walk into an Apple store, it's like beautiful. They know what they're doing with their branding.
They feel like you're hot shit.
Yes, they are on point. Their pricing, like everything about Apple is like, even the Apple AirPods, like the over the big ones, the Max ones. Mm-hmm. I was gonna get them because I ended up getting myself an iMac, and I was like, I want to treat myself. And then I found out they're like $600, and I'm like, for what? And then you find a pair of Sony headphones for $300 that are way better, but it's all branding again.
You're like, it doesn't match and it's not the same.
Yeah, and then like once you buy one Apple product, you're like, I'm gonna keep buying it. But it's really all that they know how to brand themselves. They know their aesthetic. They know their people, and they continue to push that. And it's to the point where they could drop a phone every 6 months and people are gonna buy it, even though they have a perfectly good working phone. Mm-hmm. And that is the power of branding. That they're able to brand a phone and make it better than any other phone out there. Even though it does the exact same thing, probably less things than other phones do. But they branded themselves well enough that people are like, take my money. Whatever you drop, I'm buying.
Sell every little piece separately and people don't question it.
Take away the charger. We'll figure it out. Like, is that serious? But it's so die hard that when you find your branding and you're in that and you're able to make your image and your voice cohesive and you reach the audience you want to reach, there's nothing that they won't buy from you. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that they won't, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really all branding nowadays, every single product. Because again, everything is good. All the quality, we all got the great quality. The manufacturers are all there. Everyone has good stuff. The only difference between that one and this one is if they branded it in a different way.
And such a good product can flop by not having the correct marketing, 100%. By not having the correct branding.
You know how many things I've bought just because it looked cute? Because they branded it good, and then I tried it and it sucked. And then you know how many things I've bought that I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. Why do not many people know about this? And most times it comes down to marketing and branding, and they didn't market it well. They didn't brand it well, even though it's an amazing product and no one knows
people
about
are sleeping on this.
Yeah, and it's because most people are like, I don't know, it doesn't look good, or like, you know, and that works with everything.
It looks cheap, and it's just the packaging, but it looks cheap.
Yeah, and it works with everything. Like I don't know if you know the brand Poppy, the soda.
Yeah.
If anyone is like curious and wants to like do this research, you can find, they were on Shark Tank originally, and you can go find their episode. And when you go find their original bottle, horrible, ugly, not cute at all. And they got signed. I think that they got signed to Mark Cuban or one of the sharks. And I'm 100% sure one of the first things they told them was, we got to change this entire branding because it's not cute. No one wants to buy it. It doesn't make, you know, and look at it now. Colorful, they're bright. Now their branding is on point. If you go on their website, it's like the cool new soda to drink. We were literally watching the Super Bowl and they had a commercial on there, which is not easy to do as a new brand. So it shows like the branding, as soon as they changed it, it like popped off that brand. Yeah, you know? And it's the same drink.
Yeah.
It's just the only difference that they did was change the colors, the bottle. They made it more vibrant, more youthful. But if you look at the original one and go watch the original Shark Tank video, you'll be like, that's not the same. Like that company would have failed if they didn't do that. They would have never went to where they are now. And thankfully, they were like open to changing. But if they didn't, I don't think that they would be as successful as they are right now.
And what's crazy is I'm sure because they weren't that successful up until Shark Tank, I'm sure that up until then, they thought maybe it's our recipe. Maybe it's our recipe.
100%.
When the whole time it's like, no, the drink is fine. You have a good product. You're just marketing around Stanley Cups. Just 100%.
Recently.
Stanley has been just kind of a product that's been for 50-year-old men in construction for years.
Like a work brand.
Switched it up, the marketing to appeal to TikTokers, young women.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're skyrocketing now.
100%. So that's all brand. At the end of the day, all of that. Like, it's so crazy, but like, it really affects multiple things. Not multiple, everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, restaurants. Like, it's if you see a line in front of a restaurant, you'll be like, maybe that shit's good. That's all marketing.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do that on purpose. Like,
create a line outside just to let people, kind of see that they got something going on.
Yeah. Or like, even like restaurants that have like those really cute like Instagram photo ops, and like it's a pretty restaurant, and then you go in and the food is trash, but you went and they probably get packed houses. Mind you, the in a wall taco place is way better, but you don't know because you don't know about it. They don't look cute. You know what I mean? Like, all those things matter. So imagine if you had an amazing product and your branding and marketing was on point. That's like a superpower right there. You're gonna win.
Yeah, no, I love how passionate and knowledgeable you are about all of this.
Thank you.
Honestly, and to be self-taught, it is amazing. It's just so inspiring. It's crazy because you are like, right now, you're just so passionate about what you're talking about. And that's one of the things that drew me to want to, hire you. Because I
appreciate that.
No, I told my husband, I'm like, baby, when you want to hire someone, you're obviously looking for someone who knows what they're doing, but a lot of people know what they're doing. But when they actually are passionate and tell you right off the bat, just from a consultation, that we had, was just kind of already giving me, well, I'm going to tell you this just to kind of help you out a little bit, little things like that. I told him, like, she actually, like, she has a passion for this. He's like, well, if her heart's in it, then you know that it's going to be, truly.
I appreciate that.
No, of course. And that's literally what you, my pregnancy brain it's on point right now. I love it. That's what you, is it exuberate?
Or what I preach, I guess. But
it just flows out of you, like, just talking about like how you're so passionate about like all these brands and how important branding is. And that's what you do. You could easily just be like, I do logos, so I'm gonna help you just get a logo that you like, and that's it. But you're like, no, it has to be about everything.
Sometimes I'm too invested. My fiance tells me that. Like, there's a lot of times where I'm working on, probably every time. So when I'm working on someone's brand, I feel like it's my brand too.
Yeah.
And I tell people this all the time.
Blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, because there's a lot of times where I'll get attached to a specific branding or type, and I remember then the person that I give it to is like, no, I don't like that. And I'm like, but this is the best way. This is like, I'm like, don't you want us to be successful? And then my fiance will remind me, no, this is their business, not your business. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, okay, fine. If they want this, I'm like, but it just doesn't look good. Like, it like, for some reason, I feel like I'm on your team.
Yes.
Like, when you hire me, I feel like I'm your creative director, and I'm telling you, no, we're not going to do that. That's not the right way. This is what's going to be better for us.
You're not listening.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, he's like, babe, they're paying you. Like, shut up and like do what they say. And I'm like, no, you're right. Like, there's to a certain extent, like, I give my opinion, but if you push back, like, there's only so much I could do. At the end of the day, this is your business.
You have to respect.
You're gonna brand, but there's times where I feel so like I am part of this that I'm like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, oh, they picked the one I don't like, or like they picked the mood board that I think is like not the best, or whatever it is, or like. But at the end of the day, I have to like let go, and I'm getting better with that. But I definitely am very passionate to the point where I feel like this is my business too. Like, we're doing this together. But at the end of the day, my mission and like my goals in life is I want to see more women more women entrepreneurs. I want to see more women businesses out in the world. And if you remember on our first call, I told you like, hey, if you don't book me, because at the end of the day, I think finding a designer is like finding your therapist. Like, you're going to have to date around and find the person that makes sense for you, the person that has the right style for you, that you could work with, all of that. Like, all of that matters. So I told you, and I tell this to every single person that I have a call with now, is, hey, if you don't want to book me, if you feel like we're not the right match, or my prices are too high, I totally understand, or like whatever it is, I'll recommend other designers for you, because at the end of the day, I believe in what you're saying. I love that you're a woman trying to start something. I love that you're trying to like do something in a scary world. Like, all of that is hard. And I know that I might not be the right person, but I still want you to win. I still want you to be successful. I still want you to succeed. So if I can help by offering, and then if I can give business to another woman designer, like, I will do that. So I do that all the time. There's a lot of times where people are like, oh, I can't work with you right now, or this is not going to be the right fit. And I'll send them a list of like other designers that I love and I've worked with and I trust, just because I still want you to like do this business, and I still don't want you to feel discouraged that if you can't work with me, that you shouldn't, I can't do this. Like, no, like there's other people out there. You can work with someone else. Like, I'm not the end all be all of like design and branding. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other people.
And that definitely is something that definitely stood out to me, because I'm huge on sharing the wealth. Yes. Like there's enough for everyone.
100%.
Enough for everyone. So I even told him, I'm like, she even said like, she'll send me like recommendations and stuff. He's like, oh wow. And I'm like, yeah, like it's just the passion out there of just wanting, women to succeed and to be great. And I remember when I met you at Amor Amigas, you said, I'm ready to just help all you like women, just elevate yourselves and just help you guys be on point,
Yeah, like because at the end of the day, I know that there's so many women that are coming out with amazing products or services or podcasts or books, but sometimes you need the help because this is not your full-time job right now. And a lot of times the women I work with, this is their like side hustle. So I know that you don't have all the money in the world to make this what you want and hire that huge company that's going to make it the branding great. So I try to be like in between. Like my prices are higher than I've ever charged before, but they're not as high as some other designers or some other like media companies that you might work with. Nothing like that. So I try to be at a good place, and I always work with people. Like I always tell them, like, if this doesn't work with you, let me know what would. We could take something out, or we could figure out a payment plan, because at the end of the day, like, I wouldn't want that to be the reason why you're not getting something that you should get for like, you know what I mean? And then I usually, when I know someone can make a commitment, like when someone's like, you know what? I'm willing to do it. Like, I'm going to figure it out. I'll usually be like, all right, let me offer you something for that, because I feel like that's a huge step to do. And I'm proud of you for doing that. And I think that investing in yourself is important. And I always tell people, I'm like, when you find something a priority, you'll make it happen.
Exactly.
And if you want to do something, you'll find the money for it. You'll find a way to figure it out. And it shows me that like you're really serious about this, and you're really serious about what you want to do. And I want to help you even more now, because seeing you passionate about what you want to do makes me like want to help you do that. You know what I mean? So I definitely am a girl's girl. I want to see people win, and I think in the long term. So I think, yeah, maybe I gave you a discount and I lost out on some money, but what if your podcast becomes #1 in the world a year from now? I'm gonna be like,
that's my logo.
I did that. You know what I mean? Like I helped. I believed in that. I got you there. And I only work with people that feel good vibe, like on a certain vibe frequency. And I never work with someone that I would feel like a year from now, if they popped off, that they would forget about me. I only work with people that I know that if your product popped off and I designed it, that you would be like, Keila, on my team, I have money for a designer in-house, or I'm coming straight to you, or you know what I mean? Like I only work with people that I know will come and share the wealth. And it's always been that way. Till this day, I mainly get all of my clients from referrals, because people are like, I got you. Like, thank you for helping me out, or you're amazing. I'm going to tell other people about you. And that's because I treat you the same way that I would treat someone that is paying me top dollar. You know what I mean?
No, that's good. That's important too. Now, what would you say has been the hardest part of owning your own business and going on this venture and just completely being your own boss?
For me, there's a lot that goes into it. I think a lot of people feel like when you work for yourself, you get more freedom, and you do in a sense, but you work 24/7. Like there's no, like you don't clock out at 5. And I think a lot of people might think, and you can make your own schedule. Of course, you could like switch things around, but now when it's on you, it's always on your mind. Like you're always thinking about this. You're always figuring out ways. So you don't shut off. But I think for me, the hardest part has been time management. And figuring out and prioritizing things that are on my plate. I want to take everything on. And sometimes I realize I can't. And I am one person. And I also like, being in a creative field, you only like, of course I still work even when I'm not motivated and stuff like that, but there is a level of creative output that you have to put, and sometimes you're burnt out. Like sometimes you're just like, yo, I really don't have the creativity right now to do this, but there's still a project right there that I have to work on. You know what I mean? Thankfully, I have great clients that give me grace when there's situations like that, because I always tell them in the way that like, hey, I'm not in the best space creatively to design this, and I don't want to design something for you that's going to be whack. Yeah. And most people, 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh my God, girl, take your time. Like, I'd rather you make something that you're good and proud of and that you're passionate about and make it great than like for you to look oh, I got to do this and make
to do it just because you have to do it.
Yeah, and most people are understanding of that. But at the end of the day, yeah, when you're in a creative field, it's like not easy to just pump things out. Like it's not like a formula every time.
Yeah.
Like although there is certain steps you have to hit, there's an element of creativity to it that you can't always replicate or you can't always expect to be. Like I dispense a lot of creativity in other places that sometimes when I get to that, I'm like, oh man. And then it's because I take a lot on and it's so many different things. So I think I've the hardest part and the challenge for me has been like prioritizing things and time management, because there's times where like if I'm more excited about this, I'll spend a lot of time on that, and then by the time I get to the next thing, my creative energy is like, and I'm like I can't do this, I can't even think about this, I need to like numb out, or I need to do something different,
delegate a little.
Yeah, but I've realized that like I definitely need more help and need to be better at prioritizing and time management, because not only do I do things for other people, but I also have my own creativity. Like I have my own TikTok and I have my own content that I want to do. And if you think that like I do a lot now, there's so many more in my brain. Like I have like I want to do a book. I also want to do a podcast. I want to like do this and that. Like there's so many things, but it's only so much you could do in one day.
Yeah.
And you also don't want to like stretch yourself so thin that you're like at the end of it like.
Or you don't want to start it when you're not super ready. You know, don't want to half-ass anything either, you know?
100%. Yeah, so that's been the hardest part for me, is like, because you don't have a set thing, you can take on as much as you want. There's no ceiling.
Yeah, no limit.
Yeah, there's no limit. Like when you work at a job, like this is your salary and that's it. When you work
and
for
this
yourself,
is your job description and that's about it.
Yeah, and when you work for yourself, like you can take on as much as you want. You can make as much money as you want if you want to work as hard as you know what I mean. Like there's no limit. So because of that, you're like, I can keep going.
It's so enticing.
I can keep going, but then you realize like, oh, the reason why you have weekends off on a 9 to 5 is because you need to recharge for that. Like you don't work 7 days a week because they know that you would not be mentally at the right place. So there is a level that you need to disconnect and kind of have like a schedule and kind of like prioritize and time manage things. So I'm getting better at that.
That's
I need to. And especially because we're in the process of like trying to have a baby. And like, I know that when you have a family, like right now it's me and my fiance, and we have a dog now. I realized having a dog, you need attention and this takes time. But I know that when I have a baby, that's like I can't work all day, and like you know what I mean. Like there's gonna be things that I do need to prioritize my time for, and that includes self-care, that includes family, that includes rest. So that's the hardest part, because sometimes I could go on and keep going and work, and then I'm like, wait a second. And there's times where I don't want to do anything, and because I work for myself, I know I could not work this whole day, but then tomorrow I'm gonna have double the work. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the hardest part for me.
It just comes with being your own boss. The great thing is that you're your own boss. Bad thing is you're your own boss.
Yeah, usually you have a boss that tells you like, no, don't do that, do this right now, or this is what you're doing today.
You gotta be disciplined.
This you have to do it all yourself. And sometimes the hardest part is figuring out like, what am I doing today? What should I spend this much time doing? You know, but when you have someone telling you what to do or like prioritizing that for you, it's easier. Like when I work at Pop Sugar or any contracting job, I have a project manager. She keeps things in check for me. That's amazing. I don't have to think about certain things sometimes. But when I'm on my own, I'm that person and I'm the person.
Yeah.
Like you're all the hats. So it becomes a lot. So a lot of things either fall through the cracks, or you end up taking on too much that you're not supposed to. Like, you know what I mean? That's the hard
that you shouldn't
part.
have to.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, I want to take it on. But usually then you figure out like, actually, I could only take 2 projects on a week. Or like you start to realize and hopefully honor the fact that like your body and your work and life is telling you, girl, you're doing too much, you know?
With that comes, you have to be honest and brutal with yourself.
Yes, that's
calling
true.
yourself out. Calling yourself out.
And because you don't have someone there that's going to call you out. You know what I mean? There's no boss there that's like, hey, you're late today.
Or, I mean, if you're blessed enough to have a caring partner that's like, hey, you've been moody because you're burnt out and it's affecting our relationship. It's affecting our personal life. Like, you can say no to these clients. I know it's more money and everything, or it's losing money if you turn them down. But think of you have to put yourself first. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that something to navigate that in terms of like wanting to make more money, and like, because that's where I was at a time where I felt like I needed to take more and more on to make more and more money. I ended up raising my prices and taking on less people
in there.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, you know what? How about I just raise it the amount that 5 people would get me? How about if that becomes I only need 2 people because I raise my prices enough?
Yeah.
So then I'm not as stressed, but I'm still making the same amount of money. You know what I mean?
Happy medium right there.
100%. So I've learned to do that as well, but I think it takes courage to raise prices and to ask for what you think that you deserve. That's not an easy thing. At least being a Latina, like, it's not easy to be like, hey, this is how much money I think I'm worth. Like, it feels like icky, but it's not. That's
a huge problem with Latina entrepreneurs. Actually,
we undersell ourselves and we charge less. Honestly, I've had people tell me that I still charge too little. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, girl, what are you doing? And I'm just like, at the end of the day, I still want to always give back. And to me, and I always still want to support women, and I still want to support small businesses. So let's say I even ever get to the place where I do charge a ridiculous amount. I think no matter what, I'll take like 2 people a month where I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you half the rate or whatever. Yeah. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, I still think I'm going to do that all the time because I no matter what, that's like at the core of who I am. Yeah. And I feel like not every $1 million business has $1 million to give. You know what I mean? So like sometimes the businesses that are going to pop and are the ones that are going to blow are the ones that you need to give a chance to. The ones that you're like, you know what, I'm going to support you. Let's figure out a way to make you pay for this. And like, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you need to get paid too. But I do think that that's always important to like keep true to your values and like the core.
Now, anybody that's listening right now and has maybe thought or considered taking on, graphic design and starting their business, what would you say to them?
You mean like as being a graphic designer?
Yeah, if anybody has wanted to, dive into this career and stuff and isn't quite sure.
Yeah, I would say research and learn as much as you can. That's what I did to be at the place where I consider myself a designer. I watched a lot of YouTube. I paid for a lot of courses. Skillshare is a great place where they have a lot of courses that you can
is that a website?
Yeah, so Skillshare.com has a lot of courses on design, on producing, on a lot of creative things, drawing. So like Skillshare is something that I invested in so that I could like learn a lot. I paid for a lot of courses. Like I would go out and like I would find like graphic design courses and spend like $100 for like this course online that I could watch a video of. I practiced a lot. There's a lot of times where in the beginning I did a lot of things for free because I just wanted to like practice working with a client.
And that's important.
Yeah, practice working with a client. And I think, especially when it's your first time doing anything, I think doing some stuff for free lets you work out the kinks. You could ask, because it's free, you could be like, hey, yeah, I can give you this for free, but hey, I would like a review at the end. I would like you to tell me all the things I could do better. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things you can learn from just giving a product for free. And services for free that I think are beneficial. So I think doing that, I think practicing a lot where you're going to be figuring out your own style, because for graphic design, like everyone can get the technical skills. Like let's say you learn Photoshop, you learn Illustrator, you learn how to draw, all the things that you need to like technically do the job.
Yeah.
The only difference now between you and another designer is your style. So like for me, I'm more bold yet timeless and chic with my style. And some other people are more girly and feminine with their design style, where like they just design more just like feminine brands. Then there's other designers that are more like in your face and like they design more like club promoter flyers and like that's a designer too, they do it different. Then there's more people that are really, really neutral and their style is like creams and beiges and they do very like minimal work, and that's good for someone else. So figure out what style you like, figure out what industry you want to be in. When I first started, after I did all my free stuff and I was like, you know what, I did a lot of things for myself. So I did a lot of passion projects where I designed brands that I wanted to attract. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to design a very vibrant like clothing line brand that's not for a real person. I just did it for myself, and I just made up a name, made up a logo, and I put those things on my portfolio so that when I showed my portfolio to people, they were like, oh, I like that style. I want that. So because sometimes when you charge people and like people are paying you, you're designing their vision and what they want. And sometimes that's not aligned with you. So like, let's say you want to be more in a beauty space, right? And right now you're designing a lot of restaurant work. Don't put any of that on your portfolio and design 4 or 5 brands or 4 or 5 designs that are beauty inspired and put that on your portfolio.
So work, like make logos that are for no one, just for you to build your portfolio.
Yeah, and to attract the type of people you want. So if you want, let's say you are right now in a beauty space and designing for a lot of beauty people, but you want to be more in restaurants or hospitality or hotels, design 1 or 2 brands that are more that vibe, and then start showing that to people, because some people are visual. So if they see your portfolio and all they see is pink and girly stuff, they might be like, oh, this is not our vibe. You don't get it. And you might get it, but it doesn't look like you do. So the hotel might not hire you because they're like, oh, no, this is not what we're
like, I know
for.
I haven't done much in the past about this, but I still can. And it's kind of, they're having to run the risk of taking your word for it when they don't see it.
Yeah. So imagine if you were like, oh, no, but here's my other one. This is the one that I've done for hospitality and hotels and restaurants. And then they see that and they're like, oh, actually, yes, this is exactly what we want. And so I say design for the brands and the industry you want to be in. So if you want to be more in like clothing, streetwear, edgy, design stuff for that and put that on your portfolio. If you want to be someone that's more in the beauty, like clean, design that. And it might not always align with the paid work that you have. You don't have to put everything that you've gotten paid for on your portfolio. You just have to put the stuff on there that you want to get more of. So if you want to get more of one style, that's the things that you should put on your portfolio to attract those type of people. And I think another thing too, I make a lot of in person, like a lot of my stuff I get in person and I network. But and I don't know if this is 100% like super important, but for me it is. I like to embody who I am in every asset of me, right?
Yes.
So when I go out to an event, I am not wearing sweatpants and a big t-shirt. I'm not comfortable. I am dressed like to the nines of a designer. I have color on. I have all my jewelry on. I want people to look at me, and when I say I'm a graphic designer, I want them to be like, yes,
that makes sense.
I want to hire you. And I do that intentionally. And, you know, obviously I like to dress nice anyway, like I probably would, but I definitely am way more conscious when I'm going to an event of how I'm looking and how I'm presenting myself visually, because that matters. I would, and this is horrible to say, but like if I'm hiring a trainer, I'm not hiring someone that doesn't look fit and isn't the 100%. Body that I want. I'm sorry, but like, no. Same thing with like if I met a person that's like, oh yeah, I'm a nail artist, and I look at her nails and they're not like, I feel like you're your own walking billboard.
You are.
So if you're going to be doing, like, if you're like, I've hired people off of stuff like that, where I saw this girl one time with like crazy colorful hair and I wanted to dye my hair during that time. And I was like, oh, who did your hair? And she's like, oh, me. I'm a hairstylist. I'm a hair colorist. I was like, booked. Your hair is beautiful. You've gravitated. You got my attention, and I could tell you can do a good job, and I trust you because of that. And sometimes that is important. People again want to buy into the brand, and part of my brand is how I look.
Exactly.
And I make sure that I do that every time I go out somewhere, because if I would have gotten up, and not that it doesn't, I'm sure I would have still gotten people that wanted to work with me, but if I would have gotten up at that Amor Amigas event and didn't look the way that I was dressed that day, I don't know if I would have gotten as many people to reach out to me and to want to follow me and to want to like be interested in who I am. It does help when I look and dress a certain way when I'm out, because people are like, oh my God, yes, this is how you dress. I can imagine what you do with my brand.
Yeah.
So it all of that is visual. I'm doing that on purpose. That's all a part of my brand. You know what I mean? So it's
a marketing tactic, and it works very well, because I mean, it got me. I was like, okay, this girl, this has got spunk.
Yeah, and
she
then
stood out.
And then I back it up with my work after we had our call. Then it all makes sense, and you're like, oh no.
And then you share the website and the work you've done previously, and I'm like, this is literally like, she's a walking brand, you know?
So I think that's super important. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, hey, look, if you want to be like, you know, a braider and like braid hair, your hair should be braided freaking ridiculous every time you're out. Every time you're at least going to an event. If you're gonna go see people and hand cards and say that you're a braider, you braid hair, your braids should be on point. I should not see like busted braids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like saying, and I think
and guys aren't gonna want to get a haircut if a guy has a fucked up lineup.
Exactly.
Up, you know, like,
and or lashes. When I see girls that are like, I do lashes, and I look at their lashes, I'm like,
do you?
I'm like, oh, I'm good. I don't want those lashes. But that's all important, and I think people forget about that, and that's something that you should keep in mind, because that's part of the branding as well.
Yeah, people are always taking notice of stuff like that. So some may say like, yeah, I don't do my lashes because obviously I don't got time because I'm so busy because I have a lot of clients. It's like, well, you should probably do them.
And you'll get
more. Yeah, you'll get more because people are,
That's a walking billboard. I'm pretty sure there's so many times where I'll see girls and I'm like, oh my God, your lashes are so pretty. And if they were to be like, oh yeah, I'm a lash tech. I'll be like, oh, go to your card. I would definitely want to check out your work now because I'm like, they look amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it's free marketing right there that people are sleeping on.
100%.
I love that. So definitely take more into consideration how you're presenting yourself. Understand that, being a graphic designer is way more than just doing a logo. It's, being a whole image representing a whole.
I mean, and you can. There's people that, I think if you want to be like a great graphic designer, yeah, I do think that like your image is important. I think research a lot and you're never going to know everything. Things are always changing. Like there's times where I talk to my art director at Pop Sugar and she's like, oh my God, Photoshop just released a new thing. I'm watching a tutorial now. And I'm like, oh, you're like way higher than me and you're still learning. Always research, always continue learning. Design things for the industry you want to be in, for your portfolio.
Be prepared.
Yeah. And I think, stay curious at the end of the day, because I think that the more curious you are in trying to learn new things because there's a lot that goes into design and graphic design, or there's a lot of different areas. Like there's branding, but there's also people that do animation. There's also people that do, like illustration. There's a lot that goes under it. So be curious. Maybe you might decide like, oh, actually I'm better at illustrating than I am at doing flyers. Yeah. And maybe you decide like, you know what? Actually, I'm really good at animations. This is like my jam, but you wouldn't know that unless you're curious. So
exactly.
Stay curious as well.
And I know you posted something not that long ago about how there's no cap on creativity. Like you can't run out of creativity.
No, you can't. If anything, you just continue refilling that. And I tell people also like the best way to like fill up your cup in creativity is to live life. And like, at the end of the day, like the more you do, the more people you meet, the more people you talk to, the more experiences you have, the more your creative well is filling up versus the more you're just doing stuff and like in terms of like creating logos or designing or outputting stuff, you're letting go of creativity, but then you're not getting anything back. You're not getting it. So if you're just home all the time, only working, your creative floor is going to go down because you're not getting anything new. The more you travel, the more you see new things, new places, new people. You never know where you're going to
try new things.
Yeah.
There's inspo everywhere.
You never know what's going to inspire you. You might go to a new restaurant and have a new cuisine and that's like, oh my God, I want to like, you might go in there and they have like some artwork on the wall that you're like, oh my God, that's great. If you didn't go there and do that, you wouldn't have been inspired in that way. So living life inspires you way more and gives you way more creative juice, but it's never gone. Like you're never depleted. You could just continue going. Yeah. But if you don't live life, it does, I think, become stagnant. Like eventually over time, you're creating the same thing. You need more inspiration. You need to continue doing stuff in life to continue raising that creativity.
And stay up to date with all the trends.
100% too, yeah.
It's always
it's always changing.
What was hot 3 years ago is not so hot now.
But it will come back.
Yeah.
Always comes back. Yeah. So it's always important, like to again, like if you want to follow a trend, because once you do it and start it, then if it comes back, you're like, oh, I remember I did it. I already know how to do that.
I've been on this.
Exactly.
I love that. So anything new, any upcoming, anything exciting for Hustling Mami Creative Studio? That you would like that?
No, I'm currently working on my personal website. Okay. So although I have my Hustling Mami right now, that's more of like my design for clients and for businesses. But I am trying to work on my personal brand, which I think is very important outside of your business.
Oh, okay.
So I have Hustling Mami, my business, but then I'm Keila. I'm Creatively Keila the brand. Yeah. And by Creatively Keila the brand is I want to do more podcasts. I want to be on more panels. Yes. I want to do more events and work that way. And I feel like that's important to have a personal brand for, because now outside of my design studio, you're hiring me as a person and as who I am. You know what I mean? So I'm working on my personal website that is going to highlight all the different things that I do. I am working on being more active on socials, on like TikTok and on Instagram. I'm currently doing a 75 hard style challenge where I'm getting dressed every single day and documenting it. I currently currently am in the process of taking jewelry making classes because eventually, maybe in the future, I will be dropping a jewelry class, jewelry like line or brands because I love jewelry and accessories. So yeah, all of those things are in the works. I'm just trying to like really solidify myself this year into being a personal, my building my personal brand more and solidifying that, and also opening myself up to different opportunities that aren't just design.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So many things in the works, so much hustling behind the scenes, hustling in every aspect, I guess, in your personal life. The whole jewelry, when I saw you posting about taking a jewelry class, I'm like, that is so random, but it's so fun, you know, like, and you scream, why not? Like, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Sure, you know?
And if you met me or if you've seen me, I am usually dripped out in a lot of jewelry.
Yes.
And so it just makes sense. It's something I love, and it's something that I know I have a good eye for, because there's things that I see in my head that no one has made yet that I'm like, I want to find this jewelry piece, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna make it. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna learn how to like make my own stuff so that I'm not like finding, and I still will always support other brands and stuff like that, but I just have like this excitement to make my own stuff. And I feel like whenever you're excited about something like that, it's a good thing. So follow that and listen to that. And that's usually because you're excited for a reason. It's in alignment with where you are right now. So if you're excited and you want to like, oh my God, I want to do it. And so that's what I did. I was really excited to like do jewelry. It's not something that I've been doing forever, or not something I even thought of
just this year you started, right?
Yeah, I just started this year. It's not something I ever thought of doing. So I think doing it and being curious and being excited, follow those feelings. But I'm excited to hopefully have that in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. That's so funny because you said, you know, if you're excited, that's a big one, you know, a big indicator that you're at the right place. But also if you're nervous, you're nervous, people a lot of times take nervousness for like a red flag, or maybe I shouldn't, you know, or I'm gonna fuck up. But it's like, no, if you're nervous because you care. If you care, it's because it's like,
I feel like nervous and excited are the same thing.
One and the same.
It depends on how you view it. Like right before you get on stage and you're about to sing, you're nervous, and like those are the same.
Like a knot in your stomach. I mean, I've never sang anywhere. Shit.
But it's you know what I mean, when you're nervous about something, I think it's the same thing. I think it's about how you frame it. So you could be like, oh, I'm so nervous to be on stage, or you could be, I'm so excited to be on stage. Yeah. It's the same feeling how kind of, and the way that you view it. So I think a lot of times nerves can easily be excitement, and maybe thinking about it that way isn't as scary. So I there's a lot of times where like if you're like saying to yourself, I'm so nervous to start this, change it and maybe say, I'm so excited to start this.
And that kind of switches the mindset a little bit, tricks the mind a little bit.
Yeah, you're still feeling the same thing, because when you're excited, you're also like jittery. You know? So it's the same feelings. It's just about how you're viewing it. And I think excited sounds like a little bit cooler.
Yeah. A little less scary. Yes. You know, but 100%. The fear's there, but it's a little less scary.
100%.
Oh my God. No, this has been amazing. Any last minute things you want to say, Keila? Anything you want to share?
No, I just want to say that like anyone that's listening, I genuinely believe in you. If you have something in your heart and in your mind that you've been wanting to do and that you've been wanting to start, I'm going to give you the secret formula right now.
No snaps.
Just start. At the end of the day, the only biggest step that you need to do is start. And I know that sounds so like, oh my God, really? But it's so true. A lot of people are paralyzed to even start something.
Yeah.
Once you start, you can figure everything else out. All the kinks, you'll figure it out. It'll start, you know, you'll be like, oh, okay, I got to do this, whatever. You could prep and plan as much as you want, but prepping and planning is not starting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, go ahead and prep and plan and do the things that you need to do, obviously, to feel ready. You're never going to feel ready though. It's like at the end of the day, you just got to do it. And sometimes starting that way is better, because all the mistakes that you make, lessons learned, and you will never make them again. So I think starting and just doing it, and that's what I've learned and I've led with a lot, is I just jump into things sometimes, and then afterwards I'm like, oh man, I probably could have planned this better, but if I did it, I would have not started. You know what I mean? If I kept, because then you start researching all the things that can go wrong, and then you start spiraling, you overthink, and then you're like, you know what, I'm not gonna do this. Sometimes when you just start and then figure things out as it goes, you're like, well, I'm already here, so like let's just keep going.
I gotta keep it up, gotta keep it up.
I think at the end of the day, like if you're feeling like something's calling you, if you keep coming back to something, if
there's a reason.
Yep. If something keeps popping up in your mind, if you keep seeing that same thing that you're like, oh my God, this keeps coming up, it's for a reason. And at the end of the day, I believe in you. I promise someone else in your situation has done it. And the fact that they did it doesn't mean that they're competition. It means that you can also do it.
Yeah.
That's proof. If there's someone out here, out in the world that has started a podcast and you want to start one, that means that it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think viewing other people as possibilities and what they've done as like, oh my God, it's possible versus, oh my God, they did it, I can't do it.
Oh, they've already taken that idea, or they've already.
I always give people the comparison of Rihanna. If Rihanna felt like, oh my God, everyone has a makeup brand, I shouldn't start one, we wouldn't have Fenty Beauty right now. So like, you shouldn't think that way ever. There's always space for you. There's always space for a new idea. There's always space for a new passion, a new project. And then I think just, be serious about it. Put your effort and time into it. Give it the time and the space to explore it. But like I've said, be curious. If it's not for you anymore and something else is, then maybe you can move on. Like, don't let that discourage you. Just because you start something doesn't mean that I now have to be in this box forever.
You're glued to it.
Yeah, you can grow and evolve, and that's okay. And when people ask you like, hey, weren't you gonna do a podcast? What happened? You could be like, yeah, I tried and I started it, but I realized it's really not for me and I don't feel it that much, but I'm actually pivoting and starting a talk show. Like, it actually brought me to something I do want to do.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't feel like, oh my God, now everyone's going to ask me and I told them I was doing it, now I'm not doing it anymore. You know what I mean? As long as you're not doing it anymore because you really realized it wasn't for you, not just because you're like scared and
or because of what people were saying.
Like as long as you're really like, no, I actually really realized I don't want to do this is not for me, then of course pivot and try something new and don't feel like you have to stay in that. But if you're doing it just because you're like, oh, I'm scared and I don't know, I feel like this is not working, then you didn't give it that space and that time to explore that. But I do think like, don't feel like you need to be boxed into that and you can go somewhere else, and don't feel ashamed, because I think it's so much more powerful and brave to be like, yeah, I tried and it didn't work out and I'm onto something new.
Yeah. Own it.
Yeah.
And I feel like another big thing that my listeners probably are taking from you is you may already have a winning product, a selling product.
100%.
Sit back and kind of analyze how you're marketing and what your branding is.
Yep.
And I mean, all of Keila's information is going to be linked in the description of the episode if you're, wanting to collab with her or, hire her or work with her. But if not, I mean, if right now you're just kind of like trying to figure it out, just kind of sit there. Who are you marketing to? And is your brand right now just you? Then maybe start there and see. No, remember, it has to be, I know you like cupcakes, but worms are what attract the fish.
Yeah, work backwards. Like figure out what your clients are and who you want to get, and then figure out where they are, what they would like, and then work backwards all the way back to you. And then obviously when it ends with you, you should still like it, but it shouldn't always only be reflective of you, unless it's a personal brand.
Yeah.
Obviously. But if it's a business, a product, a service, then think about the ending result and work backwards, because a lot of people, like we've said, have a great product, a great service, a great business, but they're just not marketing it the right way, or they're not branded the right way. And that really could be the tipping point.
Yeah. And they're focused right now on what's wrong with my product. What is it? I feel like it's good, but it's not selling. And it's like, well, maybe it's not the product, So kind of just keep that in mind, that there's a lot of other factors to take into consideration when trying to reach the masses or trying to market and stuff.
And another thing that you just reminded me, when I have my personal website, which will be, by the time this episode is out, you guys will be able to go on there. I am going to be offering creative consultations.
Ooh.
So I'm going to be doing for like an hour where you can ask me and talk to me about anything. And that might be better for people that aren't at the place where they're able to fully invest all their money into something like branding, but maybe they need the right direction to go in, or maybe they just need my ideas of like, I can talk to you about like, hey, actually, that marketing is not the best for that product. Maybe you should do something like this, and give you the action points and the places to go to fix that, or to rebrand or what you need to do with my expertise. You know what I mean? So that's going to be something that people can get as well.
I love that.
If you're not able to fully invest in the packages that I have, you can also just have an hour with me and we can talk. You can run all your ideas by me. I can give you all of my thoughts. We can, have a whole creative brainstorm. And it doesn't have to just be about a business. It could be about like a personal thing or like hobbies that you want to try, or just like in general, like whatever. I don't know what people want to ask or talk to me about, but I will be offering that as well.
I love that, kind of like a creative consultant, creative coach.
Yeah.
You know, kind of creative direction.
Yeah, because
I love
it's
that.
like hiring me for an hour to get my ideas and talk to me and run things with me, and then hopefully from that you gain a lot of clarity and you gain like where to go and what to do. And I know that that's going to be easier for people that aren't able to like at that moment invest in like some of the things that I offer. And it's a good way for me to be able to help people in a different capacity that isn't necessarily me designing everything for you. Because some people already have designers that they work with, but they still need help with like the vision or things like that. And that's a situation where you can work with me, and then we could just, I give you all of that, and you could take that to your designer, take that to your person, and like now you know more of what you want and more clarity and more like what your vision is.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I already know from just recording with you right now, listeners already right now have gotten so much insight just by listening you speak on everything, like your the knowledge that you had to share, you know, with just little things. They're already listening and like, oh shit, you know what? Little things like that. So even just listening to the podcast with you on it has already been super helpful for, you know, even just one listener, and I'm sure it's going to be more. So I think it's very nice of you and exciting. I'm excited for you to try to branch out and try to do the consulting and the creative direction.
I'm excited for it, honestly, yes.
I love that. So again, thank you so much, Keila, for coming on the podcast. Was there any other last minute things you wanted to say, shout out or anything like that?
No, I just want to say thank you for putting yourself out there, because if you didn't say that at Amor Amigas that you had a podcast and that you wanted people on there, I don't think that we would have gotten to this point. And I think that it's beautiful that you're extending your platform and your voice to other women that are working, that other women that are in business, and like allowing this to happen for like your listeners. And I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Was this your first podcast?
Yeah, it is my first podcast.
That makes me so happy.
First one. And I'm super excited for everyone to see the branding because we worked really hard on it. And I feel like it really is reflective of like your personality, of like the fun that you have on this podcast and what you do. And I really want to see it grow and become something like so amazing, which it already is, but for it to continue evolving. So I'm super excited for that. But thank you for inviting me and for letting me be here.
Of course, whenever you want to come back on, just let me know and we can, you know, have you back on whenever.
Yeah. And
keep getting your feet wet with podcasting.
Yes, I would.
Your fiance too. I'd love to have him on the podcast as well.
Yes, for sure. And everyone, you can follow me at Creatively Keila on Instagram and TikTok, and eventually my website, which I'm sure will be in the description notes, but just in case.
I was going to say, if all that is up and running by the time this episode airs, I'll have all that included in the description of the episode, like always, sharing the wealth, making it easier for my listeners to contact my guests for anything they need. Like always, you guys don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review. That helps me a lot. If you've made it this far, over an hour and a half, you're amazing. Thank you. As always, if you guys are listening to this in the morning, I hope you guys have a great rest of your morning. If it's afternoon, have a good afternoon. And if it's nighttime, well, I hope you have a good night. All that's left for me to say, you guys, is bye.